Hi, it's Jan Beta, and I got this a week ago, which is a new Commodore 64 Ultimate. And while I am very happy with it, in general, I'm going to address some small problems that I have with it that could be improved with some hardware modifications today. So let me tell you what the problems are and how I'm going to address them. And just in case you're interested in the probably millionth unboxing video and first impressions video of this, I made one, but it's just for my supporters on Patreon, Ko-fi, and YouTube channel members. So if you really desperately need to watch another unboxing video of this with me talking off the cuff about this system, then it's a good idea to head over to the video description where there are some links to support me. And then you can watch the video if you need to. But I didn't really say anything particularly mind-blowing in it, just my first impressions with this thing. This is the Starlight edition of the new Commodore 64. I thought I'd get this one because I have enough bread bin C64s in the regular color. And this lights up like a Christmas tree. It has RGB lights in the keyboard and in the bottom of the case, basically. And also this LED here is a multicolor RGB LED that changes the color together with the keyboard, basically. And that's also one of the problems I have with this, because while this LED looks pretty nice and the color matches the rest of the lighting in it, which is a nice touch, of course, it is not particularly useful. The only thing you can see from this LED is whether the system is on or off, basically. The color is no indication of other things. However, there is a modified Ultimate 64 board in here, the Ultimate 64 Elite, a version of that which is compatible with that and has all the same connectivity. So there should be an LED header on the board. I haven't actually opened this up yet, but there should be an LED header that supports a bi-color LED, dual color LED that you can set up to indicate things like disk activity and the power state of the system and things like that. That is accessible in the menu, but the LED is not connected. So my plan is to change this multicolor LED with a two-color LED that can change from red to green to indicate disk activity and things like that. That is the first modification I want to do. And then there's another little thing that I noticed during use, which is this. So they put a multi-function switch in here that rocks both up and down. And this is a momentary switch and not the on-off switch, latching switch that you would have on a regular C64. So the functions are basically hard-coded. You can't really do anything to change these functions on the switch. And one click to the top enters the menu where you can access disk files and cartridge files and everything else. There's a lot of settings in this, and that also leaves the menu. The down position doesn't do anything if you just do it for a short time. You have to hold it down for 4 seconds to turn this system off. I don't really like the little 4-second delay there, but there's nothing I can do about it in an easy fashion. However, this acts as a reset switch, like a physical reset switch that you would have on your old C64. When you hold this down for a second and then release it, it resets the system. And that is the second thing I want to address today, because that annoys me a bit. I'm used to just pushing a button really quickly and resetting the system like that. So this doesn't really fly for me. And this is what happens when you just hit it for a short time. Yeah, the on-off thing, can't really change that, but the reset, there's a header on the board for physical buttons that you would have on a 1541 Ultimate. Those have 3 buttons: reset, freeze, and access the menu. And there's a header on the board to access these with physical buttons. And I at least want to put a reset switch in here. That's the other mod I want to do. And then there are some little other things that I want to do, like put a real SID chip in here and put an SD card in here. As I said, I haven't opened this up. It's really new to me at this point. I'm not even sure if my mods are going to work, but we're going to try them. Anyway, I also installed DolphinDOS on here, which is a very fast loader for the C64 of the old days. I used DolphinDOS a lot on my original C64, and it came with a little circuit board that you would have to put in your disk drive, 1541, and then it would connect via a parallel cable, and there would also be a changed kernel ROM in the C64 itself. And of course, you can emulate a parallel cable and a RAM expansion in the disk drive and several different kernels with this Ultimate. I'm going to put a walkthrough of how to do this and a slightly modified version of DolphinDOS that you need to make it work on this machine in the video description. I'm not going to go deeply into that, but I highly recommend using this instead of JiffyDOS, which is way slower. It is a tiny bit more compatible, and you can easily just put JiffyDOS on here as well, but DolphinDOS, A, it doesn't cost anything, and B, it's 25 times faster than a normal 1541, whereas I think JiffyDOS is 7 to 9 times faster on a good day. So this is really fast. I'm going to demonstrate it later in the video. And also it has some extra functions that I really like, and I'm used to because I used this back in the day. Another option for fast loaders, of course, is to use cartridge images. I used to use the Final Cartridge 3 cartridge, just emulated on my 1541 Ultimate that I used a lot. And this basically has the same functionality for cartridges, and the Final Cartridge fast loader is also much quicker than JiffyDOS. So I'm not sure why people recommend JiffyDOS. These DolphinDOS and Final Cartridge are both really compatible with stuff. And also action replay fast loaders are vastly more speedy than JiffyDOS. Nothing against JiffyDOS, it's highly compatible, and in a real life scenario it's one of the easiest fast loader mods that you can do. Just put a ROM in your disk drive and a ROM in your real C64 and off you go. And it has some really nice functionality, but it's not the best fast loader out there, I'd say. It's a matter of taste, as always, and it's easily switchable in this, and you can have multiple ROMs on the internal flash even that you can cycle through. So just as a little aside, let's look at the hardware. That's what we're here for. So this should pretty much open up like a regular C64, just with the difference that this has threaded inserts for the screws, which is a nice feature. So this has 3 threaded insert screws here that are really tightly in there. Yeah, these are the cases, are the Retro Fusion replacement cases that were available previously, and these are really good. Really like this thing in general. Can't say what you want about the new Commodore, but the hardware they provided is really nice. And I have a relatively late serial number on this one because I'm a late adopter. I was only able to order this after some very generous donations from some of you. So thanks for that again. This is serial number 11,994, and that's probably actually the 11,994th machine they made. That's approximately how many they sold at this point, I believe. And of course, I still like the real C64s better than this. There is a USB-style cable for the keyboard assembly that you have to unplug. And it's not a USB keyboard. And there's another little cable that we have to unplug. Oh, that's the keyboard LED cable. That's for the whole keyboard assembly lighting here, I think. So yeah, this just all comes loose. And you can see here, this is the transparent PCB they used for the keyboard assembly. Yeah, it looks pretty amazing actually. And you can see here that the LED, this is the RGB LED that's connected on this actually. So that's how it gets the color information. It's in the same color as the keyboard lighting. Just a regular 5mm round LED in here, form factor wise, that is attached to the case in the same way that the original C64 LEDs were attached, I think. That's a little round retention clip here, and there's an LED holder that clips in. So should be relatively easy to replace that. Okay, and this is what the whole machine is. Basically, this is what the machine is because this is the FPGA board with all the functions. Then you could put a real SID in here, 2 of them, and an SD card, which I'm going to do right now before I forget that. Oh, that's even one of those ejecting SD card slots. Nice touch. And then we have these little things here for the console buttons. And this is for our power LED. You can basically have 3 different LEDs, 3 different colors here. So I didn't know that. It seems to support 3 LEDs in hardware, but I think in the menu it just says 2 LEDs. You can address 2 LEDs. You can, of course, hook up a regular C64 keyboard because, as I said, this is basically the Ultimate 64 board, which has all those connections for the real C64 things. So yeah, internal USB port, we also have that. Can do things with that, but I don't have any plans for that because I have 2 external USB ports as well. Going to use these for the time being. So we need this thing here. These are our buttons, console buttons, right, middle, left, and ground. So we're just going to short one of these pins to ground, and it's going to be our reset. I don't know which one, probably the left one should be the reset. That's where the reset is on the 1541 Ultimate. Yeah, power LED, buttons. And of course you can have a freeze button and a menu button in the same way, but I just need a reset button. And that's probably actually the first thing I'm going to do. And what I want to do is to just put a physical button in here. There's a cutout. This would be the channel select for the RF output on the original C64s. And this case, of course, it fits the original C64 boards as well. They didn't remove that cutout, thankfully. So I'm probably going to be able to put a switch in there in some way. I'm used to these as a reset button on the C64. These were widely used by modders back in the day. So yeah, basically these have a washer and then they screw into a hole. But this is a cutout. We're going to see if this works. Yeah, we need a larger washer to hold it in place, but that shouldn't be much of a problem. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. Let's see if that still fits with the case. I'm trying not to drill into this case in any way or anything like that. I'm just going to try to screw this down. Just screwing this in. Yeah, that's actually not too bad. But this only holds on to the left side of this case. Would need something to fill up the space there. But it's pretty solid actually already, like this. Let's see if the top part still goes on there. Yeah, it's a bit fiddly, but actually does work. And this is the variant to have a switch that isn't protruding much without any 3D printing or anything like that. Should still work fine. I think the most elegant way would be to print something that fits this cutout and then put one of those little tactile buttons in there. That is a lot more space saving. But this should work, and I don't think it looks ridiculous. So let's wire this up, I guess. We just need 2 wires and a pin header. Or maybe I'm just going to use 2 separate pin headers so we can change this to be the freeze button if needed. You need one connection to ground and one to one of the 3 possible positions on this header here. So this is what I'm using for the crimping, very basic crimping tool set that I bought off Amazon, I believe, or someplace. These are available for not too much money, and they are very useful for things like this, among other things. Many other things. I've used this a lot because pin headers are standard in many electronics devices, and especially in the older ones. And I think I'm just going to use white wire to not interfere with the general look of the machine. What length do we need? We need to go from here to here. 2 of approximately the same length. And as I said, I'm going to solder them on one side on the switch side and crimp them on the other. Heat shrink tubing. And of course, it's a good idea to slide it on now before we crimp the connectors on. And don't forget to actually shrink it. Single connections here. And we can just put these in there, ideally. There we go. There we go. Okay, that should be our reset switch sorted. Let's, should we test it or put the LED in as well? Let's just prepare everything and then put it together. Now for our LED, I bought these, which are red and green in German. It's important that you buy some with a common cathode. Yeah, this is not the shop I ordered them from, but I got them on eBay basically. Just did a search there. These also come in blue and red, I believe, and in red and white. This is the red and green one because these are the traditional colors for activity and power in the Commodore devices. And I already marked the things. The longest leg is the ground, the cathode. Basically, this is two LEDs in one. So you have one green one and one red one. I already marked these with a marker, or with two markers, three markers actually, black, red and green. You can easily determine which one is which with your multimeter, or with most multimeters, I suppose. Let me show you. So most multimeters, even the bad ones, have something called a diode testing mode. And you have two leads here. The ground lead goes to the ground pin. I'm just holding it in my hand. And then you touch the other pins and the LED should light up in the color that that pin indicates. So this is our red pin and this is our green pin. And notice that the red is dimmer than the green. This is not the brightness this is going to light up in the C64 Ultimate. The multimeter only uses a very small voltage to test this, but you can determine the color, which leg is which color. And we're going to solder resistors to this. The resistor values I found on c64u.org are the recommended values here: 2.2 kilo ohm for green and 220 ohm for red or blue. I'm going to shorten these wires, solder resistors on, two different values on the color legs, the anodes, because these are two different separate LEDs electrically. So we need two resistors, two different resistors for the colors, ideally. Not sure if these values are good, but yeah, just trying. 2.2K goes on the green because these are traditionally brighter. And these are, of course, modern LEDs, so these are going to be even brighter than the original ones. So that is our 2.2K. And then we need 220 ohms. You can, I think, also buy these pre-made from some places if you are not into soldering. But who doesn't like to solder? And of course, this is going to be heat shrunk afterwards as well. Let's put 3 wires on there. And of course, we need to determine the length of the wires we need. I'm going to shorten the resistor legs here as well, tiny little bit. But I want to determine the length of wires we need beforehand. And I'm probably going to use the appropriate colors for this. So green wire, red wire. You of course can use white wires for this or something that you prefer, but it's going to make things a bit easier to use the color-coded wires here, just in case we forget. So this goes here, this goes here, and I'm going to leave a bit extra, something like this. Red. Let's solder these on, and then we're going to put a 3-pin connector on the other end, because the connector on the board is LED 1, ground, LED 2, and that's the LEDs that you can access from the menu. So yeah, this is what it looks like now. Just soldered the wires onto the other end of the equation there. Heat shrink tubing. And some more crimping. Perfect. Need to put the black lead in the center there. I'm probably going to drill these a bit. Just winding them around themselves to make it look a bit neater. That's how we did it in the olden times. There we go. That's pretty neat. So ideally this should be our new LED assembly. Let's see if we can put it in the case. And we should be able to just pull this ring here up. Yeah, there we go. And then it should be relatively easy to get the LED out of the holder. There we are. I think I want to put this aside. And this should fit in there exactly. Oh, we should put the ring over this. Oh no, the ring! I lost the ring. Yeah, I lost the ring that locks it in place, I'm afraid. But for now, we're just going to put it in here. And it holds pretty well without the ring as well. So I'm going to look for the ring that we need a bit more. But as you can see, the LED just fits in there as the original because it's also 5mm. I'm going to find the ring, and I think this is also should be the same LED holder mechanism that is on the other original C64s, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find a replacement in case I don't find the original ring. But I'm eager to try this out, so let's do just that. So we're putting in our reset switch. Oh, this button just closes these two contacts, so I think I set the left pin and the ground pin. It's what I assume to be the reset switch. Something like this, maybe. Yeah, this is a kind of a workaround, but the LED is the main attraction anyway. So this now goes on LED 1 ground and LED 2. And the bottommost pin stays empty. And we can configure the colors in the menu, ideally. Keyboard LED and the keyboard USB looking thing here. Okay, I managed to put the case back together halfway. Let's see what it does. Oh, the LED light lit up green. That means we connected it correctly, I think, but we have to set it up in the menu. Let's see if our reset button works. That doesn't do anything. That means probably it's one of the other pins. Probably the right pin and the ground pin. Ground and right, presumably. Let's try that again. What does this do now? That's the reset. So you have to connect it to ground and right. I need to come up with a neater solution to fix it in the case. Let's configure the LED. So there's my DolphinDOS hitting the reset button. Yay! Okay, going into the menu, which should still work the same. We can of course still use the old reset switch kind of thing. So LED lighting. Power LED if installed. We just installed that. We can put this into drive A active 2. We are just going to put on. And drive A active is output 1. So that should be our activity LED. Can also set this up to USB activity, any activity. And the other one is power on, basically. This is what I want, basically. So now this should be red while the system is on, and the green LED should come on when drive A is active, which is the internal drive. Let's try that. Okay, as you can see, it's now red. Let's load something, basically. Yeah! That's exactly what I wanted. Let's load a proper thing. I just tried to load the directory. My SD card also works. That's pretty nice. So let's see. Drive activity is indicated now. Let's load again. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And it goes back to red when the drive is finished loading, which is pretty fast with DolphinDOS. So that's how you put an activity LED in there that, as you've seen, you can configure to your liking. I like that a lot better than the RGB LED actually. And you actually can't use the RGB LED that is in there from factory to do this. As far as I know, it would be a nice feature to just be able to set this up like this in software, but I think it's just hooked up to the colored LEDs in the keyboard, so can't really change the color and still have the RGB lighting. Yeah, let's reset this. Okay. That's really nice. I wanted to install a real SID chip because the SID emulation is really good. It sounds really decent, but especially for the older SIDs, all of them sound quirky and they distort in ways that are not so easy to replicate, I think. And I love the sound of those. For some occasions, I like to have the warmth of an original SID. And I have the luxury of having one spare, I think. So this should contain my spare SID. 6581 revision 1, which already has a heatsink glued to it, so that's nice. It is recommended to use heatsinks on here, of course. So I'm going to put this in the SID chip 1 socket here. Yeah, that should be in there. Yeah, you didn't see that probably because I forgot to move the camera, but yeah, I put it in the socket 1 and SID changed. Please review settings. Okay. Audio setup. SID sockets configuration. Enabled. 6581 mono. It should auto-configure audio mixer. Yeah, that's the real SID. Nice. Yeah, and it sounds worse from a technical perspective, but lovely from a, I don't know, nostalgic perspective. It distorts in places and it's not as bassy as the emulated SID and things like that. Yeah, you can't hear it properly through the microphone, but this is the real old SID that I put in there, and that's what I wanted. And I think I can deactivate it just by going into the menu, into the audio setup, and just deactivate it basically. Can just disable the SID socket. Okay, I'm much happier with this, especially when I find this little holder for the LED again. I'm probably going to leave the reset switch in there for now, as it is. Yeah, as I said, pretty happy with this so far. I haven't used it much yet, and there's probably a lot more tricks and things, and I'm not going to start making videos about this every day or every week. But it's going to appear occasionally on the channel because I know a lot of people have these, and quite a few people didn't have any real experience with C64s. So things like DolphinDOS, for example, are not known to a lot of people, and you can still tinker a bit with the hardware. So that's what I'm really focused on this channel. I'm repairing real old hardware. That's my main focus. In that regard, this is not as interesting as a real machine, of course, but I still enjoy it and enjoy playing with it. And maybe I find some more little hacky things that I can do to it and can show you if you're interested. Let me know if you're interested in the comments. Yeah, I think that's it for today. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this, even though it wasn't a real C64 video, but a modern C64 video. Super happy that this thing exists, independent of all other discussions that are going on about the new Commodore and things like that. I'm just really happy with this device. Special thanks, as always, to everybody who supports me on Patreon or on Ko-fi or on the YouTube channel memberships page or elsewhere. The links to that are in the video description and on my website. I'm Jan Beta. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye!